I got better with myself. I had to convince myself that I was worth becoming a millionaire, that I was worthy, that I deserved it.
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow. And today on this show, I have Brian Kaskavalciyan. He's the host of the Wealthy Contractor podcast and just an awesome guy. I got to meet live there in Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago. He does an amazing thing for contractors. So I can't wait to have him on today. We're going to jump into talking about how profit is a mindset. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joshua. Good to be back.
I love talking to you because you're out there, you're doing it, you're talking to a ton of contractors, and I can't wait to hear the kind of nuggets you'll drop here based on these different topics. So today's focus, listeners, is, like I'd mentioned, profit is a mindset, the top 3 mental roadblocks to keeping contractors from success. You know, it's tough. It was really tough for me to understand this, Brian, that I was my bottleneck, right? Yeah. I was the problem. I'm like, no, it's the market. It's the economy. It's my employees. It's the this, it's the that. It's my marketing agent. I wanted to blame all the way around. But when I realized about 10 years ago that I was the problem and my business would never grow faster than my mindset, that was shocking and kind of crazy. And I'm like, oh crap, that means I've got to do the work. So
it changes everything.
It does. And you can't blame others.
Right? It levels the playing field.
It does. It does. And the ones that are most successful are the ones that have worked the hardest on themselves and faced those deep fears and those nasty beasts that are inside of them. Right. And I can't wait to get into this. So today, 3 takeaways, guys, that I want to focus on here with Brian is, what is mindset? Why is it so important? How to rewire your mind for success in life and business, and how to get rid of those old stories that keep putting you back from being stupid profitable, right? So the difference between where you are today and that profitable future that you want, not just profitable in cash, but profitable in love and life and energy, all of those things, is the 6 inches of real estate between your ears. So Brian, first question for you is, what is mindset? Why is it so important?
Mindset's kind of your operating system. It's like, it's the software that lives inside of us, I guess, is one way to really look at it. It's what we think. It's what we believe about ourselves and the world around us. And from my experience, and I've been given zero evidence to the contrary, is what we think and what we believe shapes who we become. Yeah. And the better grip we've got on those things, the more we can get what we really want and desire out of life.
So true. So true. I love that that you say it's an operating system, because we can all relate to that, right? We think of our phones and we're like, oh yeah, okay, well, this one's good, but you know what? All of a sudden you see that little red bubble and it says you have a software update and you click on it and all of a sudden it's better. Listeners, that's as simple as it is to upgrading your mindset. But you have to want it. You have to do the work. The operators on the other side of Apple or whatever phone you got, they're doing all the work. You're just hitting a button. The reality in life is you got to go out there in the trenches and earn this one, right? You got to break through those walls. So, all right. So if we know what mindset is, it's the operating system that we're running on. Where do we get it? Like, let's think about that. Like, where does it come from? How do we get... we talk about stories and things I've talked about on the podcast where we're just we're animals with lots of patterns, right? We just keep running the same patterns, the same records over and over again. But at a certain point, either a lot of pain comes into your life and then you are forced to scratch that record and try something, or someone dies, or relationship ends, there's a forced change in that. But what if we could do it without any of that stuff? What if we had the possibility to go in and scratch those records and rewrite the stories that we've been telling ourselves subconsciously? What if we could do that without all the pain, as far as going through somebody's death or something to get there? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
You almost have to manufacture some sort of, I know, at least for me, I'll speak for me, as I had an enough is enough moment where I wanted certain things and they weren't happening the way I wanted them. Now look, I didn't have a horrible life. I was making a living, we were doing well, but I wanted more. I wanted to do better. From the time I was young, I remember just being hungry for success. I remember I wanted to be rich. I had this goal when I was young. I don't know when it started, like after high school or something. I wanted to be a millionaire by 30. I had no idea back then what the hell that even meant. It just sounded really good. Didn't
Yeah.
happen. Didn't
Yeah.
happen. In fact, on my way to getting rich, I actually went broke at
Mm,
40, bankrupt, lost everything, house, cars, money, everything. 20 plus years of work. And what did I have to show for it? I move into my father-in-law's house, me and my wife and my
mhm,
kids. And along the way, it wasn't easy. But at some point it's like, okay, I have this goal. Everybody's got something they want to live in another different house, or I like to travel. Me and my wife like to travel, so there's certain places we want to go and certain things we want to do. Either way, all of that stuff requires two things. Requires money and it requires time.
mhm,
And so, where does the money come from? The money comes from the business and how well we do in business. Where does the time come from? Well, how effectively we use the money we make in the business in order to create more time. We all have the same amount, but there are some strategies and ways of, bringing people in and developing a business that works for you rather than a business that works for, or rather than you working for it. And so I think I was 46-ish years old. I'm like, enough is enough. I am going to get to this goal. I had this income
mhm.
goal that was 4 times where I was at ever, you know,
Yeah.
my top level, and the money and the number doesn't matter. The strategy is the same. And so I said, enough is enough. And I think you can manufacture those moments without having to wait for tragedy.
Mhm.
And when you manufacture those moments, it's really all about emotion. It's how you feel about it. People create these goals in their heads.
Yep.
But and that was me, by the way. Created the goal in my head, but I didn't feel it in my, I hate to say it like this, but I didn't feel it in my soul. It
Mm.
wasn't a part of me here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where it's got to get moved to is, okay, I can come up with the concept in my head, but what I've got to do is I've got to move it into my soul, and I've got to go deep inside of me in order to figure out who do I need to become in order for me to achieve whatever this thing is. In my case, it was 4xing my income.
Yeah.
In my case, it was becoming a multimillionaire. Then it was about financial freedom. And funny enough, from the time I made that decision
Mhm.
to the time that my income quadrupled, I should say our income, because I do have a partner and she's awesome, but it took about 18 months.
Yeah.
From there to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire took another 18 months to 24 months. And then
Mhm.
from there to become financially free took another 18, 24 months. And so there's so much power in making a decision, but that decision must be based in emotion,
Yeah.
not logic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because wow, I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. It's the why, right? You need to have a
Yeah, you
solid,
got to have a
understood
super
why.
strong why. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And I
even
know that.
well, I was going to say I have an exercise that I just happen to use on myself,
Okay.
where I call it today, it's got a really like fancy technical name. It's called the four numbers exercise.
Okay.
And it's about coming up with four numbers. Obviously, I'm joking about the super fancy technical
Of
name.
course.
I couldn't come up with anything better. So you get four numbers and you really sit down and you think about, okay, how much money do I need in order for me to live my ideal lifestyle? And so you come up with a number for lifestyle. Like, how do I, where do I want to live? What kind of house do I want to live in? What kind of cars do I want to drive? Where do I want to send my kids to school? Where do I want to travel? How do I want to have fun? If travel is your thing, okay, do you want to travel in the front of the plane or the back of the plane? Do you want to stay at Ritz-Carlton, or are you okay with staying at, the downtown Marriott? It doesn't matter what you want. It's what you want. But you come up with, okay, here's how much I need for my lifestyle in order to live my ideal lifestyle number. Then you come up with a number of, okay, well, I want to build my future wealth. I'm quite a bit older than you are. When I started this, it was really for me, my biggest number was, well, I don't want to keep doing this for the rest of my life. I want to be in a position where I don't have to work as hard. Well, in order to do that, I got to put money aside. I got to invest money. I got to put money to work. So that's the second box, is future wealth. Third box is giving. Giving is, not only is it a good thing to do, but it's also a very powerful wealth strategy. And then the final piece is liabilities and taxes. And so when you take those four numbers and you add it up, now I got one number. That's my number. Okay. And for some people, that number's a couple 100,000. For some people, it's $1 million. For some, I have a client that makes $2 million a month. Everybody's got a different number. Doesn't matter. But find your number. And then with that exercise, it creates the why. How is my family going to be impacted by this? How is my life going to get better by this? And then you got to internalize that, and you got to make it, like Napoleon Hill calls it, a burning desire. Without a burning desire, whatever you hope to have is just that. It's just a hope. It's a wish. It's a dream.
100%, dude. You're exactly right with that. And the cool part is when you develop those four numbers, add them together, you now have a target. So hunters out there, imagine going out into the woods with your bow or your rifle and putting a blindfold on and then just starting to shoot all over and hope like hell you hit a deer. That's how most of us, and I'm saying most of us because I used to be that way, ran a business. We ran it all on high on hopium, right? We were hoping it was always going to work right. And how much was the right amount of money to make? I don't know, whatever we got at the end of the year. And I would take as much of that as I could as my paycheck, and the company would starve, right? Not knowing how to do any of this because we don't get taught. We don't get it. Once we get our EIN number, we don't get a packet that says, here's how you run a successful business, Brian. Read all these things, check. And we got to figure that out on our own. So with that, once you have a solid target, this changed everything for me too, is once I had a solid target, knowing what did I needed per month to live these, the ultimate lifestyle and where I'm at now, where the gap is, how to get there, started to work with strategists. Like, how do I do this? Like, you guys have done it. So changing your circles, getting the right people in them, coming up and saying, hey, can you show me how you did it? Yeah. And that's the cool part about the internet now, especially social media. Most people that are, let's just put it, good people are most likely going to say, hey, of course, come here, I'll show you. Right. Yeah. You might pay them a little bit, but they're going to show you how you did it. Like, okay, I can compress decades of pain and trying into days of coaching. Well, like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. What is this? What is this that you're doing right now? What you're doing is providing people for free, by the way, which is crazy about podcasts, is the information that you are putting out into the world through this podcast is unbelievable. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was coming up, I used to listen to the Nightingale Conant tapes, the highly produced Nightingale Conant. I had Jim Rohn in the car with me. I had Earl Nightingale in the car with me. I had Brian Tracy. I had all these people in the car with me. But there's something about this that is really kind of cool.
It is. And it's such a blessing.
Exist before. Yeah.
It didn't. No, I mean, I remember when I first started in the business, everyone was silent. Like, if you knew what I did, that means that you would take it and you would then beat me.
Exactly. Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Nowadays, God, people are so much more open about their situation, about this is what we're selling. This is how much we're making. These are my challenges. These are my opportunities. You're right. Yeah. 100%. When I came up, when I was coming up, you did not share your business stuff with anybody.
Nope. It was like the Coca-Cola recipe. You kept that thing in your lock and key, and you're like, you might see on the outside the projects that we're doing if you're watching, but I'm not letting you into the inner sanctum. There's no way that's happening, because if you knew what I'm doing, then you would copy it, and now you'd be my competitor. That's what I love about how the world's changing. We're becoming much more collaborative than competitive, and that's why everything is growing so much faster, because we're all willing to share, because we all have stories to share. Every one is important. And that's, I've got the blessing here to talk with you and to share it with others. Like we could just have this conversation, Brian, you and I, and it could just be ours and be done. But we get the opportunity, right, to be able to share this with everyone listening. So listeners, thank you for constantly keeping up with us here. And hopefully you're going to learn something today, because I want to get back, spin full circle back to when we talked in the beginning about how profit is a mindset. We talked a little bit about mindset and breaking old patterns and that kind of stuff. My question is then, how is profit? Like, can you define profit first? And then how is that a mindset? It sounds to me like that's a mechanical thing where you do a project and you make a profit, but how is that mindset?
Well, profit, my definition is what is left over after everyone and everything is paid, including yourself, for the work that you do in your own business. And a lot of people in the trades and in the spaces that you and I are in make a living. Mm-hmm. They do millions of dollars. They organize, people, bunch of people, in some cases, dozens, in some cases, hundreds, and they make a living. Now, in some cases, they make a really good living. I spoke with a guy a few weeks back. I actually wrote a whole article on my conversation with this guy because it was interesting. He's doing $20 million a year, the 5% net. Now, if you do the quick math on that, guy's making $1 million a year. Okay. So you would say, wow, that's amazing. And I don't poo-poo $1 million income. I mean, that's top 1/2 of 1% of income earners. However, what I will poo-poo is 5% on 20 million in sales. What about getting to 15? What about getting what you're really worth? And so if you're doing a good job for your customer, if you're eliminating the pain that comes with, the uncertainty that comes with, the doubt and the fear that comes with working with a contractor, and you keep your promises and you deliver a great experience, why shouldn't you earn a really good profit? Really good profit. Now, 5% in some industries, 5% is good. To me, in our industry, what you should shoot for is 15 to 20%. The book we were talking about earlier, that was where I got the idea of 10% should be considered break even. 10% should be considered break even. Now, also, there's layers to this, and I don't know how deep we want to go, but there's also a lot of risk in low profitability, because all it takes is 2 bad months and you could be in a world of hurt, and you could be start to make really bad decisions, like using customer deposits as your own to cover payroll. Ouch. No good, know?
Or being the bank, right? That's when people say, oh, I got like 200 grand in my account. This is great. I'll float this. Mrs. Jones is going to pay me next week. I'll float this to my contractors and my suppliers out of my own cash. So it's like, and then all of a sudden she doesn't pay and she doesn't pay. And then you've got payroll. Like, you are never the bank. That's a principle of mine. You are never the bank.
I like that. It's a bad move. And then what happens is people then end up taking on debt. And those are the worst conversations that I have with people, is they built a business, they worked their asses off. And this happened to me, by the way. And now they're in debt. I spoke with somebody, a couple weeks ago. A friend of mine knew this person, and they had a really interesting, like, specialty contracting business. It was commercial. And anyway, long story short, we were talking and she's like exhausted. She wants to get out of the business. And I asked her the question. I go, well, why don't you just shut it down? And I said, wait a minute. I go, how much debt do you have on the business? She said, we have about $1 million in debt. Wow. I go, all personally guaranteed by you? Yeah. It's like, wow. That happened to me, by the way. I was almost $1 million in debt because I thought, well, wait a minute. Hey, I'm building this company. We're doing over $10 million a year. I'll just keep borrowing money. We'll put money into the business. We'll grow it. And then somebody's going to come along and write me a big fat check. Sorry, but They're not looking for companies that are riddled with debt. They're
Yeah.
looking for companies that are cash machines.
Yep.
No one's going to come and buy your company if you're having to take on debt because you have a broken profit model.
Yep. Oh man, it's preach, brother.
Yeah. So, but I fell for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
fell for it. Yeah. And lots of people do. And it's messed up. So profit, okay, so going back to profitability is your just reward. And I'm using that word in particular. It's your just reward, meaning you're entitled to that. You've earned that. You deserve it. But a lot of times, what happens with us talk about mindset is you got a couple things going on. One is, and all this shit stems from when we were children, like up until 8 or 9 years old. A lot of times, we as grown men are making decisions from a place of an 8-year-old child. But we are like, do I really deserve to make that much money? Am I really worth that much money? What's going to happen if I start to make that much money? What are my friends going to say? What's my family going to say? Now, the insidious thing about all of this is happening inside of the software. This is happening inside of the operating system. And a lot of us aren't even aware until you do some work on yourself that this crap is going on. And if this stuff is going on, which it is in all of us, that will prevent you from making what you should make or what you could make. And so, what I did to quadruple my income was not get better at business. Okay. So, a lot of people think, well, if I just get better at the business, no, I got better with myself. I had to convince myself that I was worth becoming a millionaire, that I was worthy of it, that I deserved it. That's what I had to go to real work on. I did a podcast episode recently with a really smart guy. And we were talking about this, and I wrote it down. Get this. This is what he said. He said, you have to trick yourself into thinking you're better than you are. You have to trick yourself into thinking you're better than you really are. And that's the game. That's the game. Now, I say it a little bit different. I like the way he said that. But it's you have to do everything that is within your power, and you have a lot more power than you realize, to convince yourself that not only do you deserve it, and not only are you worthy of it, but it's already on its way. Because if you have the desire, and one of my teachers taught me this, and I never got it. I never got it when he first taught it to me, but I got it later, is if you have the desire, okay, so let's use an example of something. Let's just say you want to make, let's just say what's your dream car?
My dream car, I'm actually driving it now. It's a Jeep Gladiator, a big tire so I can go ripping through the mud.
Okay, cool.
Nice and simple.
So that started off as an idea in your head. Okay, that started off as an idea. You saw this and you're like, whoa, that's cool. Now, what most people will do when they have that desire is now they come up with all of the reasons why they can't have it, they won't have it. Okay. But the idea here is that if you have the desire, the means by which for you to acquire whatever it is that you desire must also be present in your life. It's called the law of polarity. Okay. There's no down without an up. There's no left without a right. There's no light without dark. And so if there's a desire, the means to acquire that must also be present. The problem is you're not aware of it. And so what starts to happen? So you wanted this Jeep Gladiator with the big tires and all of that. So how long before the time you had the desire to the time you had the truck?
Maybe a year.
Okay.
Started
So you're
becoming more
good.
aware. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good at this. You're
Mhm.
quick.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But for a lot of people, it just remains a dream. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the business. I want to create a business that looks like this. I want to have a business where the people are happy, where they're doing well. My community is this, and blah blah blah. I've got all these big like hopes and dreams. And I always ask them, well, how are you doing with your family? Is your family living that way? You want to do all of this for the community and all of this for all of the people around you. How are you doing with your own family? Okay. And you'll almost always stump people with that. Almost always. It's because they haven't gotten serious. They haven't gotten serious. They haven't gone and done the work on themselves in order to bring it all about.
So, Brian, I mean, we're tracking right along here. So, my question for you, listeners, if listeners are out there thinking like, okay, I get you, I hear you, Brian, you're beating me up, I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it. So,
Okay.
how do they make the shift, man? How do they? What changed for you that you could go from thinking about it to holding it?
You got to do a lot of work on yourself. You also, I should now, as it relates to profit. So the original question was about profit. As it relates to profitability, you have to understand the underlying mechanics of profitability. Okay. Just like with you in sales,
Hmm.
right? So sales is a process. And so you have to understand the basic fundamentals of your process. So if somebody's buying your process, paying you to help them, which is a very smart move, by the way, they should, because you are going to give them the fundamentals of this is how you're going to be successful selling outdoor living,
Hmm.
whatever the products are that they're selling. Same thing with profitability. You have to understand the fundamentals. What is gross margin? What is a profit model? How does your pricing strategy impact your gross margin?
Hmm.
How does your marketing costs impact what you're doing? How much can you spend on marketing and still put it good? So you need that practical side of it. But the other side of it is how do you start to become that person? Let's say your goal is, let's throw out a nice number, to make $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how do you become that person? Well, you got to talk to yourself a lot. You have to go into training. It's funny because a lot of people, when it comes to mindset, they'll listen to something like this and say, okay, I did the work. I listened.
Hmm.
Now I know what
Yeah.
it's going to take.
Yeah.
Or they'll go to a seminar for a day or two or three and they'll sit, or they'll get a Tony Robbins CD and they'll pop it in
Hmm.
and they'll listen to it. I just dated myself, by the
I
way.
just I was thinking CDs. They still have those.
I think Tony Robbins, I think tapes and CDs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's like saying, I want biceps, like I want cool, like ripped biceps, and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do one set of curls and then I'm good. I got it. I
Hmm.
know. No, you got to be in there every day. You
Yeah.
got to work your biceps. You actually have to work your triceps too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just build your biceps because then you're going to look like a weirdo. There's this guy on TikTok. Have you seen the guy on TikTok with he pumps like oil, some weird oil
Hmm.
into his bicep so that it looks like a basketball,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
He looks ridiculous,
Yeah.
okay? And that's what would happen if you did that, right?
Yeah.
And so training is critical. And this is, make no mistake, if you want to chisel your body, you go to work. You want to chisel your mind, you have to go to work.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things you do? Well, you listen to podcasts like this. You actually do the things that are recommended. You try to implement as quickly as possible. You take responsibility for every outcome in your life. We talked about
Hmm.
this before you started the recording. That levels the playing field, by the way.
Yeah.
You take responsibility. It's not the government, it's not the president, it's not the weather. It's none of that has anything to do with my business. Okay. Yes, it may have an impact, but if I'm going to blame and make excuses and wait for them to do things, these forces that I have zero control over, I'm dead in the water.
Yep.
But what can I control? I can control what I think, I can control what I believe, and I can control what I do. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. I also can control how I react to things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we just had an election. Okay. Half the country is scared to death. The other half of the country is on a cloud nine. So we're totally like on opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Mm-hmm.
But you, me, and all of the people listening here that are business owners, we decided one day we are going to take responsibility for our lives, and we're going to go out and we're going to build our own life. That's why we went and started a business. And so with that, we have to take 100% responsibility for every outcome that comes to us. Bad closing percentage, don't blame your salespeople. Look in the mirror. What are you not doing? What could you do better?
Mm-hmm.
Not getting enough leads? What are you doing? What are you learning about marketing? Who are you talking to learn more about marketing? Your staff not showing up for work or doing a crappy job for Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Whose fault is that? Oh, well, they suck. I can't hire good people. You think maybe that has something to do with you?
Ouch.
Definitely has to do with you.
Ouch. I think we just lost a couple listeners.
But you learn this the hard way.
Yeah.
And until you get this,
yep.
In fact, I wrote about it in my book, the 7 Secrets book. Mm-hmm. It's secret number 2.
Yep.
Number 2. That's how important it is.
Yep.
It's because this levels the playing field. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what God you preach to. I don't care who you love. I don't care what color you are. When you take responsibility for every outcome in your life, that levels the playing field.
Yep.
That levels the playing field. And so it is one of the most powerful things that you can adopt.
Yep.
And
but Brian,
the world does not do that.
But it's so hard because I'm surrounded by idiots all the time, right? That's the mentality, right? If everyone would just do what I wanted them to do, life would be so much easier. And I would be much more successful if I had the right people on my team, or if the right customers would call me and actually pay me what I'm worth. But Brian, you're telling me that I can't be a victim anymore. I'm going to have to actually take accountability and take responsibility. Yeah. That sounds like it sucks.
It does. But it's also the most liberating
for sure
thing that you can do.
Yeah, 100%.
And it is also the thing that will set you apart from the majority of everybody else walking on the planet.
It'll set you free.
It sets you free. Yeah.
Because nobody has power over you anymore. Now you finally say, you know what, that happened. What's the lesson in it? Let's keep moving. Thank you for that, God. Thank you for that. Let's keep moving, right? Take everything as a blessing and change your expectations for appreciation. That's a Tony line right there. That's a huge thing I live by. So, you know, there's a silver lining in everything, even the most horrible things. And there's a silver lining and some learning lesson in there. And it's a matter of, it's our job to figure out what that is, not to blame everyone for the shitty life we have or the bad luck, or I'm not getting leads, or I can't close them because they're idiots and they don't have the money. It's like, maybe you're talking to the wrong people.
Right.
If you're going to a trailer park looking to do 6-figure projects, you're probably not going to get a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right? That's not going to work. So maybe your strategy is not great. Not that people suck. Your strategy sucks. And who's that? Your problem. Right. And that's the hard truth to swallow. But, oh, brother, I can go on for days on this subject. This is great.
Well, we're all, it's funny that you mentioned hard truths, because here at the Wealthy Contractor, we're all about hard truths.
Yeah.
And tough love. And it's always delivered with love and respect. Those are our rules, actually, in our events and our Success Society groups. Those are the rules. There's no judgment, there's no criticism, and there's no disrespect. You leave your ego at the door.
Yep.
If you are going to deliver somebody a hard truth about behavior or action, make sure it's coming from a place of love and respect. Otherwise, don't deliver it. We don't want to hear that.
I love that, dude. It's so true. And so many men, specifically listeners out there, they don't have that in their lives. They don't have someone who will tell them the truth and tell them right through their bullshit and be like, you're lying to me. You're wrong. And here's why. And
Yeah.
I'm saying it because I love you, not because I want to make you look like
Yeah.
an idiot. And
Yeah.
that's something that in our
Well,
society we lack a lot of.
well, and you and I do a lot of it, probably. I
Mm.
mean,
Oh yeah.
I know I do. I'm sure
Mhm.
you do.
100%.
And is telling grown men, and it's interesting because, like the guy I was talking about before, I've never built a $20 million company,
Hmm.
but I made significantly more money than him, like
Hmm.
significantly more
Yeah.
money than
Yep.
him on much less revenue.
Oh yeah.
And so it's weird to say to somebody that's built this big organization that has dozens of employees,
Hmm.
that's either, my age or older, hey buddy, you know, you really could do better.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
not the easiest conversation in the
Yeah.
world to have, but
Yep.
if it comes from the right place,
Yep. Changes everything.
yeah. And usually it's they're getting to us because they want something different than what they have right now. They
That's
want
right.
something better than what they have right now.
Yep.
So they come and talk to you about sales. They
Mhm.
come and talk to me about profitability. It's a good first move. But
Yep.
you and I and the people listening, as long as you follow at least, don't, I wouldn't say my rules, but at least, do it respectfully and with love and however you want to deliver it. If you are able to do it from a good place and you're able to help somebody, have them get out of their head
Yep.
and think differently about something, you're doing a service to somebody.
You are.
You're doing a service
It's an
by
act of love.
sugarcoating it,
Hmm.
by sugarcoating it and telling them, oh my God, you're so amazing because you did this and that. You're not helping them.
Nope.
You're
You're
not helping them
enabling
at all.
them.
You're
You're
stroking
enabling them.
their ego and you're
Yep.
enabling them,
Yep.
which doesn't help anybody get better.
Nope. It's exactly the truth, man. Oh, good stuff, man. So super excited. We came into this wanting to talk about mindset and why it's so important. I think we nailed that one. How to rewire your mind for success. We hit a lot of points for that one. You had some great nuggets in there. And then also how to get rid of those stupid old stories that are holding you back from being profitable, right? And that's not just profitable like financially. That's your teams being profitable in their lives, in their relationships with you and the rest of the team, their families. There's a profit there too, right?
Yeah,
If we want to expand
absolutely.
if we want to expand the meaning of that. But so much of that, listeners,
Fine.
gets stuck in the 6 inches of real estate between your head. That's the greatest battle ever. And as Brian's alluded to so far, it's not the goal we're after. We set a big target. We target that big number, like that's what we want, monthly, yearly, whatever it might be. But that's not really what we get at the end. What we get is a man or woman that had to be brave and courageous and face all their fears and grow to become the person that can achieve that goal. That is, listeners, that is the success. It's not the money at the end. It's the man or woman you become to get that, to win that goal, to win that race, whatever it might be, even if it's not a business. That it's development of you, the mindset that changes everything. And you don't show up like that like you used to anymore. You just
Right.
don't. And then you start attracting people around you. You start saying, wait a minute, I can't hang out with those losers I used to hang out with from high school or from whatever, from the bowling club, because they just want to sit around and drink all the time. I want to sit around and talk about how to build a company, how to impact people's lives. So you got to change your group, change your friends, change your life. It's that simple.
Yeah.
If you look at
It's
I can
hard
look at a
though.
group of friends. It is, but you can look at a group of friends. You can meet somebody new and look at their group of friends, their spheres of influence, and you can tell them where they're going right away. Are they
Yeah.
going downhill into drugs and alcohol and vices because that's what everybody else does? Or are they going to the harder path, which is out of that into constantly every single day figuring out how you can get closer to the gifts that God's given you and get it closer to his mission for you? Like, that's a hard path. It's easier to stay somehow, in some vice somewhere. It's easier to do that, but it's a much harder path to do what we're talking about here. And the question really is, listeners, are you willing to roll up your sleeves and face your biggest fears? Because the biggest treasure is on the other side of them. I love it,
Well
Brian.
said.
Thank you.
Well
So
said.
thanks for coming on. I'm excited. You guys got a lot from this episode. Next week, Brian's going to be back on. We're going to be talking about attracting your ideal client. He's got some marketing strategies that I can't wait to hear about that'll help work for contractors, bring more work in. And it's so much about, we talked about targets. We talked about targeting a number. Now we need to target a client because not everybody can say yes to you. So, Brian, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat with you guys next week.
Thanks for having me.